Today I'll be speaking about the most controversial person tied to both Sicilian and American Cosa Nostra. Vito Roberto Palazzolo was born in Terracini, Sicily on July 31st, 1947. Apparently, he was orphaned, and it's uncertain what happened to his parents. So he grew up in his great-grandfather Pietro's house, who was a Sicilian bandit that eventually was sentenced to life for his involvement over a dozen murders. In 1962, by the age of 15, Palazzolo moved to Switzerland, where he stayed for 2 years. When he returned to Italy, he began working as a translator in Rome. Palazzolo was highly intelligent and was able to pick up languages with ease. He spoke fluently in French, German, Portuguese, English, and naturally Italian. By the age of 17, while in Rome, he took a job as a head chef on a tourist ship, and it was during a cruise in 1966 that he met a German woman who became his first wife. The following year, she gave birth to their first son, and another would arrive the next year. His second wife was an Israeli. In 1967, Palazzolo left his job as chef to begin working as a banker at Deutsche Bank in Hamburg, Germany. Within a year, he moved on to become a private banker. By 1974, he was living in Switzerland and began learning the precious stones business. Through a gemologist, he was introduced to Antonino Nino Madonia. Palazzolo obtained his license as a precious stones wholesaler, and he and Madonia were associated to companies that moved diamonds and gold. They also had involvement with diamond mines in Angola, Namibia, and Russia. At the time, Madonia's father, Francesco, was a boss in the Sicilian Mafia, and Madonia was also a member. So it was through Madonia that Palazzolo became acquainted with the Mafia in Sicily. And by the late 1970s, he became a member of a family led by Palermo boss Antonino Gerasi. This would be confirmed by former members and cooperators Giuseppe Marchesi and Gaspare Motolo. Palazzolo developed a close relationship with Coglianesi bosses Dottor Riina and Bernardo Provenzano, and was said to have supplied weapons and explosives, which they used during the Sicilian War in the early 1980s. According to Giovanni Brusca, who began cooperating, Palazzolo supplied the Coglianesi with weapons and explosives that came from Thailand. Besides managing the Coglianesi money, he handled the personal investment portfolio for Totorina, which included a diamond mine. By 1984, prosecuting magistrate Giovanni Falcone began investigating Palazzolo, with the mindset being, follow the money and you'll find the Mafia. Despite knowing Palazzolo was the Coglianesi treasurer, Falcone was unable to seize their assets, thanks to Palazzolo's expertise in money laundering. During the same time frame, Falcone was working along with American prosecutors who were gathering evidence, like the money trail, involving what became known as the Pizza Connection, where pizzerias throughout the United States were used as fronts for drug trafficking and money laundering. One of the things that came to light was that by mid-1981, Palazzolo partnered with Franco Dellatorre and created a company called Consultfin, located in Lugano in southern Switzerland. The consulting company would provide banking services for select clientele and laundered money by trading in precious stones. An estimated $1.6 billion flowed back to Sicily from the United States, money from the Pizza Connection, 40 million of which went through companies set up by Palazzolo and Dellatorre, and eventually handed over to the Sicilian bosses. Dellatorre would deliver bags of cash to brokerage firms in Manhattan, where the money would be forwarded to the defendants involved in the Pizza Connection. In June 1985, at the request of the Sicilian prosecutor, Giovanni Falcone, Palazzolo was arrested for mafia association and money laundering. He was also wanted in the United States as well. And more interesting, he was a suspect in the murder of Agostino Badalamenti and was the brother of Gaetano Badalamenti. But to avoid extradition, Palazzolo confessed to committing a crime in Switzerland and was sentenced in Switzerland to 3 years. On December 24, 1986, he was released on a 36-hour Christmas furlough. He took the opportunity to flee Switzerland by boarding a flight to South Africa. He used a Swiss passport under the name Stelio Domenico Fropoli, which was his cellmate back at the prison. In South Africa, he invested some of his money by purchasing a villa in Bantry Bay and a penthouse on the Victoria and Albert waterfront, both in Cape Town. He eventually changed his name to Roberto von Pallas-Opachenko. Supposedly, his great-grandfather married a Russian princess by the same name. Italian prosecutors knew Palazzolo was living in South Africa and tried unsuccessfully for years to have him extradited. Nonetheless, Palazzolo continued to launder money and ran extortion rackets in Cape Town and managed to corrupt senior members of the South African police force and senior government officials, which insulated and protected him. Palazzolo had interest in some of the top nightclubs in Cape Town during the 1990s. By 1995, he was able to obtain South African citizenship despite being on Interpol's most wanted list. He also purchased numerous farms as well as property and set up a water bottling plant on one of those farms. In total, Palazzolo owned $41 million worth of property. In 1996, Palazzolo hosted Giovanni Bonomo, who was a high-ranking member of the Paranico family, who was a fugitive wanted in Italy. Bonomo stayed on properties owned by Palazzolo for years, until his arrest in Senegal in 2004. In 2006, Italy sentenced Palazzolo in absentia to 9 years for Mafia association. This was despite him being cleared in 1992, also of Mafia association, which Italy charged him with back in June of 1985. Upon hearing the news, Palazzolo left Cape Town and bought a villa in Windhoek, Namibia. He became concerned that the changing South Africa might extradite him. By this time, Palazzolo created a vast entrepreneurial empire composed of 200 companies that were mostly located in South Africa, as well as other countries such as Angola, Namibia, Hong Kong, and Liechtenstein. The companies were involved in construction, international trade, financial intermediation, agriculture, and mining. Aside from diamonds, he was involved in uranium mining, which is a billion-dollar industry. He owned an Angolan company, Gema Dorada, and an investigation into that company reported one deposit of around 1 million carats that was worth $200 million. Throughout the years, records indicate Palazzolo lent out tens of millions of dollars and had billions of dollars stashed in offshore accounts. In February 2012, an Interpol informant gave information that Palazzolo would be traveling to Hong Kong. There is a surveillance picture of him in Hong Kong, but he wasn't captured. He left Hong Kong and traveled to Thailand. And on April 20th, 2012, Palazzolo was arrested at Bangkok's airport. Due to the absence of an extradition treaty between Thailand and Italy, he wouldn't be extradited until December 19, 2013. Initially, Palazzolo was willing to cooperate with the Italian prosecutors, but only to the facts leading up to 1984, which obviously the prosecutors wouldn't accept. He was placed in the harsh 41 bis unit in the Opera prison in Milan. For the first year and a half, he remained silent while in a cell. But Palazzolo was a person worth billions, who first and foremost was used to his freedom. He enjoyed the finer things in life, surrounding himself with beautiful women, enjoying whiskey and champagne, and driving a fleet of Mercedes cars, as well as eating his favorite foods, which was seafood and salads. So while in his cell, he decided to write the prosecutor's office in Palermo and suggested his openness to talk with them. They sent Deputy Prosecutor Gaetano Pacci to go visit him. Palazzolo eventually met with the prosecutors and began unloading a wealth of information going back to the early 1960s. Please remember to like this video by hitting the like button. And for anyone who'd like to show appreciation for videos like this, there's a super thanks icon found underneath the video. The FBI in New York were eager to speak with Palazzolo as well. Following the arrest of Rosario Naimo on October 27, 2010 in Palermo, Sicily, Naimo, like Palazzolo, also began cooperating with the Italian government. So around the time Palazzolo began cooperating, the FBI sent agents Ted Otto and Bernardo Curra to travel to Italy along with a United States prosecutor. While their official visit was to speak with Naimo, who would wind up traveling back to the United States to provide information on cases there, the agents were salivating to speak with Palazzolo, but they were denied access to him. They blamed the prosecutor, who I believe was Dan Goldman, who's now a United States congressman. According to former agent Otto, armed with Palazzolo's information, they would be able to crank out cases. Palazzolo had dealings with Dottorina, Bernardo Provenzano, Matteo Messina Denaro, as well as the Palermo bosses before the war in the 1980s, Rosario Naimo, Leonardo Greco, Michele Greco, Antonino Rotolo, Rafael Cutullo, Pasquale Contrera, Pasquale Coruna, all those involved in the Pizza Connection, and the Cherry Hill Gambinos, just to name only a few. More importantly, was the global friendships he made with the power elite. Vito Roberto Palazzolo was released in 2019.